Hi, I'm Drew D'Amelia.
And I'm Nick Padula.
And this is Blinkity Bloop, the podcast, not the band. We have a podcast where we talk about movies that came out this week, or recent weeks. It's a recent movie podcast about things that are in theaters, movies. And we also have a band, and we love it very much. And it's awesome, and you should check out our music. Yeah, we're not in the best mood, you could probably tell, but that's fine. We don't have to get into it. We're going to be all right.
We'll be fine, probably.
Yeah. So, Nick, maybe the news will cheer everyone up.
Well, like real life news, this is full of disappointment and despair and death. Okay, maybe not the death part.
Yeah, no one died.
Okay, well, my hope in humanity maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Anyways, okay, so the news, we've got our contest, as some of you, or maybe none of you, know.
Yeah, maybe no one.
Apparently. Where to start? Okay, so if anyone listened to the last podcast, you'd know that we have this contest for someone to be our social media representative, and we were asking for submissions, and we were offering a pretty good reward, I'd say. And yeah. I was expecting the responses to pour in. And what happened, Drew?
No one responded.
Yep, not even one measly little response. I would have been happy with some shitty-ass dude who doesn't even, like, someone's grandma who doesn't know how to work her own Facebook submitting something. Literally anything. We got nothing.
Yeah, we got nothing. But instead, Mrs. Sealand finally got around to having Fisher Mist Media get us a Facebook and Twitter for the podcast Blinkity Bloop. Not the band, but the podcast. So we have that social media, and, you know, we tried taking advantage of it and trying to do some marketing, which
it didn't entirely pan out.
No.
We'll say.
No, it did not. And let's not get into it.
No.
So,
no.
I guess that's it. That's the news. Blinkity Bloop has a Facebook and Twitter, but that's just for the podcast. We still need social media for the band Blinkity Bloop. That is what we are really trying to make happen.
That's what's important to us.
Yeah, not saying this podcast isn't.
Right, no, obviously not.
But let's get that contest going. I thought the contest would be the thing that made me the most on edge today, but apparently not. But no. Things happen.
Yeah.
And we don't have to get into the other thing.
No.
Why don't instead we can get into the movies?
All right, yeah. I guess. I just need a moment to kind of collect myself, get out of this dark place. Okay, I don't think
that's going to work.
It just has to occur naturally.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
Whatever.
All right.
Well, are you ready?
As ready player one as I'm gonna be.
Fuck off. I was going to do that joke.
Fuck. I'm sorry. I fucked it up.
Can we try again?
Okay, you go.
Are you ready?
Ready?
No. You have to say yes.
Shit. Okay. All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Player one.
All right.
I found that funny.
I think the fact that we repeated it 3 times was extra funny.
Well, I'm ready player Drew.
Wait, that didn't rhyme with 1.
Instead of 2. Because you're ready. What do you think of the fucking movie?
Okay. There's a lot for me to break down here.
Let's point this out. You read the book, right?
I did.
I didn't.
That is an important distinction.
So now I'm starting to become the idiot of the podcast that just goes, hey, you know the thing it was based on.
Yeah, but you may not know the source material of movies, but you analyze them better than I do.
I appreciate that. But you thought that the book was no.
When I read it when I was a teenager, and as a teenager, I was easily impressed by stupid bullshit. We'll say.
Cool.
I was easily oh boy, robots punching each. No.
Was that in the book?
Yeah, Yeah, there
Okay.
were, but it was a more obscure robot because the author likes to jerk himself off with how much he knows about pop culture, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I bet not everyone's gonna get this reference. I'm coming. Film reference."
And it's weird how they had cum stains on every print of the book.
It was weird. It was very like some of the pages stuck together.
Yeah, it was authentic, though. I'll give him that.
Like many nerd writers, he likes to come all over his books and his pop culture.
Yeah. So the book was very self-indulgent,
Yeah.
and I hear it was allegedly misogynistic, among other things.
It can be argued that point.
Not exactly a romp to be had.
If you're looking for something simple and you're a big fucking dork who doesn't like have any self-awareness, then it's perfect for you.
Oh, great! I don't plan on reading it.
Good.
Maybe one day. Probably not.
Okay.
But you were nervous. Not nervous. You were just expecting that the movie would not be good.
Yep.
Because Ready Player One, you weren't into it, so why would the movie be good? And I thought, this is Steven Charles Spielberg. Okay?
Oh, Charles.
Old Steven Charles Spielberg is really good at taking a bunch of shit and making it good shit.
He's never let us down in the past.
BFG. Big fucking great movie.
I forgot he directed that.
I haven't seen the BFG.
We don't need to.
He did direct it.
Okay.
Listen, I mean, Spielberg, I feel, is very good at making a good quality movie. Not
Yeah.
necessarily something fantastic.
At
but
least competently made.
I don't know how many times he's actually done it, but I feel like he can take source material that might be problematic and make it not problematic.
Yeah.
I feel like he has the skills he needs in order to do something like that. So I thought Ready Player One as a movie will probably be fine. And I thought it was fine. I thought it was a fine movie. I don't think that I ever need to see it again. But I didn't not enjoy it. I think the first hour was a little bit slow for me. Not the slowest, but I didn't really care about the characters too much or what they were doing. However, the things around them, basically the setting, made it interesting for me. I went, oh, they're in video game world. All right, that's better than if they were on a field and I didn't care about them. At least they're swirling around with characters I don't know. There are almost every reference in this movie I did not get.
I got a shit ton of them, and every time I saw one, it made me angrier.
Yeah, well, apparently they were mostly video game references, right?
Yeah, with film and cartoons and different types of media sprinkled in.
Yeah, it was. I thought it would be a mix, like just pop culture. But in this, it was mostly video games. Was it that way in the book, or was it more of a mix in the book?
I think it was a pretty heavy mix. I think I saw a lot more movie references in the book and a lot more TV references.
Well, I'm gonna run through the references that I understood.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Hello Kitty.
Huh?
Hey, I think that was Marvin the Martian.
Yeah.
Whoa, the Iron Giant. All right, we're done. I think I also recognize the DeLorean. But
that was it. That was the DeLorean.
I don't think there was anything else that I saw and went, that.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like a fucking swine. Like I need to know so many things that I can leave my own cum stain in my own shitty book.
That's what Ernest Cline was betting on. Someone to feel so insecure in their quote-unquote nerdiness that they have to go out and see more movies because they want... What he wanted is for everyone to get all the references and then just being a big circle jerk of like, I'm a nerd, you're a nerd, we're all jerking each other off.
I think you've inadvertently stumbled on a conspiracy theory here.
Okay.
What if the goal of making this a movie is because Hollywood's dying and they wanted to make a blockbuster that had all these references that people would mostly not get? Mm-hmm. So people would feel bad about themselves and they would have to do more with their entertainment lives, and they'd have to see more movies. And that's why it was mostly video game references to save Hollywood.
That's what I was you were going on that trail. I'm like, except Steven dropped the ball because it was all video games.
To save Hollywood, Nick.
Yeah.
We're gonna save Hollywood with the fucking Iron Giant. Listen, do people give a shit about the Iron Giant? I do, because I like animation. But do people really actually care about the Iron Giant?
I saw it making its rounds on like certain cartoon like Facebook pages and like Tumblrs. People are inspired by it, and people do think it's a pretty solid animation with a good story.
It's a great animated movie, but I didn't think it was a popular animated movie.
It got cult status, I think.
I thought it was in the same box as Osmosis Jones, where people are like, yeah, I saw that, I guess. And that was it. It is a great movie, but in terms of the broader culture, I didn't think people really idolized the Iron Giant that much. I'm not convinced they do. No. I just think that they went, let's put in the Iron Giant.
Warner Brothers. It's a
That's
Warner
true.
Brothers property, and a lot of the stuff references in this were Warner Brothers.
I don't see why they didn't. I know why they didn't use a Transformer, and I'm happy they didn't use a Transformer. They probably didn't have the rights to it, but why the Iron Giant was a lovable Iron Giant.
Yeah.
That was great. And I'm sure they wanted the good guys to have like a nice, good mascot. But also, and I'm sure everyone has been saying this, the Iron Giant didn't like fighting or violence. And that's what the good guys had to do. So they should have stopped there and went, oh, so we can't use the Iron Giant. And they made a lot of shit up too. Why did just make up a lovable giant? Like, it's me, Tinbo. Hey, Tinbo.
Or the Jolly Green Giant, who we haven't established is violent, theoretically.
Warner Brothers would have to buy the Jolly Green Giant.
He wouldn't be very expensive.
Why does Warner Brothers own my vegetables now?
About the Iron Giant thing, though, I think they picked it because they were looking for a big robot, because in the book there was a big robot that helped in the giant battle, but it was an obscure, probably like an anime robot. I don't remember exactly, because I don't think I even got the reference in the book, because in the book the references are even more obscure, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to look that up because I don't give a fucking shit, but that's a robot, I guess. And in this, Steven Spielberg was like, all right, no one's going to give a shit about your stupid bullshit, Ernest Cline, so I'm going to pick a giant robot that's more successful and, like, in some aspects. So he went with that.
I don't care, though, because it didn't work.
No.
They should have had Tinbo, the wacky giant-friendly robot.
Yeah.
Or just have Robo BFG. Oh, and it killed me when the Iron Giant falls into lava and then gives the Terminator thumbs up. Like, stop! Why? What? What is the point of that? I get the point of it. It's like, look, another reference, but I don't want that. Because you know what that really implies is that the Iron Giant, in his dying moments, made a fucking reference to the Terminator. The Iron Giant knew what he was doing. He's like, let me reference the Terminator in my sentience. Fuck off!
To be fair, it wasn't actually the Iron Giant. The lady who had a dude avatar designed the Iron Giant herself. It didn't represent the one from the movie. It was like an avatar.
I know, and that's what people are going to say, and that's fair. I understand that, but that's not what we're going to be thinking.
No,
I know that they're avatars, and if you break it down, okay, that's an avatar. It's not really X character, but come on.
Yeah.
We're thinking of them as the characters.
Right.
So that was my problem. I honestly, I feel like either no pop culture or go way harder with the pop culture.
Yeah.
Because it easily didn't have to be a pop culture based movie.
No.
It was a movie about how, I love being in a fantasy world where anything can happen. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I understand how you can bring pop culture out of that, because a lot of people fantasize about pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's just a little too uneven. If it's a fantasy movie about doing whatever you want. Also, there's pop culture there. I don't know. For me, it was too distracting. It was such an element of the movie that you had so much focus on. It's like either do a lot with it or nothing with it.
For me, I definitely would have rather had nothing, like no fucking references, a blank, barren canvas for you to paint your own fucking masterpiece.
I would have been okay with that.
And every time they drop a dumb fucking reference, like I recognize an Overwatch character, I recognize a character from Halo, I recognize fucking Batman. Oh, there was Batman in it. You forgot about him.
That's right, Batman was there.
You say sullenly.
I'm sad that I remember, all right, Batman. He was only in there for
But
like
every time they drop one of those silly-ass references, my immersion was broken, and I was reminded, oh, this is a fucking nerd jerk-off fest, like The Big Bang Theory. It's basically The Big Bang Theory if it was a blockbuster.
But did you want to jerk off when you got the references? Where you're like, oh, my meat must be beat.
Every time a reference was made, my dick shrunk a little bit. So by the time the movie was done, it was like it went up inside me and out my mouth, and I was like, bleh.
I was imagining you had just a giant lump coming out of your back, like you had this reverse backboner of all the references you understood. Please vote for which is the more disturbing interpretation of Nick's shriveling dick and all these pop culture
That
references.
reminds me, it would go through me and then it would burst out of my chest like the alien. That's another reference, by the way. You remember that in the movie?
I got that.
So that's
reference
another
too.
Reference that you get.
I don't remember how or when it happened.
It burst out of a random
I
video
do.
game dude's chest.
I
And then it
remember
turned
that.
out to be Artemis, the girl character.
And listen, this was a mostly animated movie.
Yeah.
And apparently you said something about somebody saying, this could get a nomination for Best Animated Feature.
It was probably some, like, asshole on Reddit, so there's probably no substance to that claim.
I would have no problem with a movie that had live action elements getting an animation nomination. I think that would be really cool.
And progressive for the genre.
But the animation has to be good.
Yep. This is some, like, Star Wars Episode 3 stuff. Maybe not that bad.
It didn't have to look realistic because it was a video game world, but none of the designs were fun or memorable, because that's the problem. And I don't know too much about video games, but I know about animation. And in animation, when you're designing characters, more often than not, you want to take advantage of the fact that you're not confined to the bounds of reality, and push that to make the character look really interesting and memorable. And they didn't do that here. And the thing is, you don't have to do that in video games with avatars. I feel like video games have their limitations there. You can't be a true artist when you're designing your character.
Yeah.
But that was disappointing. Most of these characters, you look at them and you go, okay, that's an avatar, but it wasn't anything special to look at.
Like, the main character, his main thing is like, oh, I got, like, grayish skin. And the girl character is like, I have pink skin. But otherwise, I look relatively human.
Did you want to fuck any of the avatars besides the Iron Giant?
Well, obviously the Iron Giant. His giant gaping maw is just asking to get dunked on.
Well, that's one thing that they got totally wrong in Ready Player One, is that the Iron Giant is supposed to fuck everything.
Didn't they watch the movie?
Yeah, come on. The Iron Giant's just fucking trees left and right
Just
constantly.
shoving a big pine up his ass.
I'm Superman.
Well, we just ruined that for anyone listening. You can never watch that movie again and not see him, like, in the forest stuffing fucking handfuls of trees up his massive ass.
I sorely missed that in this movie. I really did.
It's disappointing.
But
Steven, come on, you know better.
I didn't want to fuck anyone. That was a real problem for me. Maybe I was a little curious.
What about the live action girl?
How old is she?
She's at least our age, maybe a little bit younger.
Then yeah.
All right. Okay.
I was curious about the bad guy's assistant who kept having jokes that just didn't work because he went, this isn't a funny movie. Don't make jokes.
Yeah.
He did have that cool skull-shaped hole going through his whole body.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, it'd be kind of cool to fist the hole.
But it doesn't go. There's no nerve endings in the skull.
I
hole.
don't care about his pleasure. I just want to kind of fist for a while.
But how are you going to get pleasure from your fist?
I'm not going to get pleasure. I don't care about my pleasure. I'm curious.
The experience.
Yeah, I want to fist that skull chest man. And maybe I'll let Big Boss give me head.
Wait, you mean his real life self or his avatar? That's a big muscular dude at the same time. They did have those sensors in the game where you can feel the avatar's touch. They made a very sensual display of that, where she's like, "Are your touch sensors on?" And then she touches him in the game and he feels it in real life. So you could feel him bobbing on your knob.
The bob knob suit. I don't understand what the point of that was. I guess the point of it was so the Oasis, this magical world, can feel more real. But then you can also feel pain. Why would you want... I guess some people would also like to feel pain. And I think one of the highlights of the movie is when the bad guy was kicked in the balls.
That was one of the moments where I was like, okay, all right, Steven. Yeah, I see what you're doing.
We had a brief moment of happiness in this movie.
Before we return to, hey, look, it's an Atari video game system. No!
And I will say, like, that didn't drag it down for me, but that's because I didn't get the references. But you did bring up the idea of, well, Drew, if you did get the references, if it was a bunch of Pixar characters, would it bother you? And it probably would if they were acting out of character.
Which every, like, reference in this movie pretty much was.
Yeah, so I definitely had the advantage of going in better. And I wish my pain sensor suit was on so I could get the true feeling of my balls hurting every time a reference popped up on screen. Everyone wear your special Ready Player One suit where every time a reference is made, it feels like it just got kicked in the balls.
Unless you like that stuff, in which case it makes you...
It will crank up the suit to remind you that you shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to hate on people for liking this. I just want to hate on the writer.
I mean, fine, but what did Ernest ever do to you?
Ernest
loves you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ernest. I'm in a dark place right now. We've had some social media issues. I don't want to get into it, Ernest. But
don't take it out on Ernest.
I'm sorry, Ernest. I'm lost in a web of my own despair.
I will say this.
Yep.
I'm feeling pretty hungry right now.
Okay.
I wish we ate something.
I wish we did too.
I want to gobble things up.
Yeah.
How do they eat in the Oasis?
They never established that.
How do they sustain themselves? How do they go to the bathroom?
There's certain virtual reality movies that show like they're hooked up to some IV system that gives them nutrients every time they eat something in the world. And I'm like, that's a way to explain it. And in this, there's not... I never even saw them eat in the real world, I don't think.
No.
There was no eating.
Also... This is a problem I really have with these simulation things, because basically when you were running in real life, you were running in the game.
Yep.
And you had a treadmill and things like that. So I went, okay, fine, I guess that makes sense. But then there'd be moments where you're doing a crazy kick or something super coordinated, or you're jumping really high or climbing on something. I don't understand how that works. And the best thing they could have done is not explain it at all. Not make me think, how does that work? But you had this one shot that ruined everything, where you saw everyone on the streets were getting into things. And you saw one, I think it was this old lady do a backflip kick. I'm like, how could she do that?
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me. How was everyone just trained in the martial arts?
It was really weird that you just see hundreds of people on the street with these same virtual reality systems, like running around, not seeing anything in the real world. And I'm like, one of those fucking kids is gonna run into traffic.
I mean, probably.
Just like, yeah, I'm gonna punch the big boss and
basically.
And the guy driving the car is also in virtual reality. Like, I'm in a NASCAR race. Boom. What was that? Probably a safety cone. Boom. And another kid. Just a whole like line of kids running.
Oh man.
What a bumper track.
That does touch on the one thing I really liked about Ready Player One, though. And
Yeah.
that was all the dead children. No.
Classic.
That was... I liked it when you had a divide between reality and the virtual world. Mm-hmm. And I liked it when there was conflict involving both worlds. Yeah. Like when the Avatar had to do something, but because his real-life counterpart was being jostled around, it meant the Avatar couldn't do something. That was 2 layers of action, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
I really liked that. And I think when the movie picked up, I got into it. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in love with it, and again, I had the advantage of the references not hurting my balls, but
Yeah.
I liked it. I think when the Resistance came in and they were like, hey, we gotta stop these bad guys, then I got what the movie was really going for. Before then, I only vaguely got it. I didn't really care. Oh, King Kong was in it, right? I got King Kong.
There you go.
There was a dinosaur that I assume was from Jurassic Park.
It did make that same roar noise.
You know your T-Rex noises that well.
There's not that many.
Listen, how many T-Rex noises do you think have been manufactured in Hollywood?
At least 20.
So you know that was the exact T-Rex noise?
It's pretty iconic.
You better fucking check your facts, okay?
I'll do that later.
If you're wrong, then we're gonna have to issue a public apology.
To the T-Rex experts?
That it was not the Jurassic Park T-Rex. How do we know?
Because Steven Spielberg directed it. Why would he not have a Jurassic Park reference?
Because he has dignity.
He doesn't, though. Because
that's right.
Okay, no. Sorry, Steven. You do have dignity, but did you have to take your dead friend's movie and fuck it up? You know what I'm talking about.
Which one of his friends died?
Stanley Kubrick.
Thank you.
They wanted
Thank you for reminding me.
They wanted to make artificial intelligence together, and then Stanley Kubrick died, and Steven's like, I'll honor your memory by making this. And then he proceeded to not honor Stanley's memory by pissing all over his classic film.
The Shining reference bothered me a lot. Because already I said pop culture should be all or nothing, but the movie established this steady groove of, we're going to have glimpses of pop culture. But then there was one entire scene, there was a giant Shining reference. And I'm thinking, okay, if you're going to have one scene that's a big pop culture reference, it's got to be the zenith of pop culture. It's hard to think what is the thing that just defines all pop culture. I don't know what it would be. If you said Mickey Mouse, I'm like, okay, I don't think that's completely true, but I can see it.
Yeah.
But they went with The Shining? Maybe in film nerddom, I could understand that.
Maybe.
But of all pop culture, it just stuck out as really bizarre that they picked that to be their big, giant reference. The Shining! The elevator scene with a bunch of blood coming out. And little children will see it and go, oh no!
Yeah, just like in the context of the original film, this is horrifying, but they made it silly because one of the characters slipped in the blood. In slow motion. The blood comes out and they're like, whoa!
That was so funny for me.
I was laughing in anger.
The character had an awful voice too. It was like, whoa! It's just this dumb automated avatar voice. And this big beefy ass fuck. And just going, whoa! And all this blood. It was so stupid.
And the naked lady in the shower who became a giant monster with an axe.
That's right. Oh, wow.
It's all coming back to you.
Oh, they went on so much longer than they should have.
And then Jack
in
the hedge maze chasing after them.
And then, gradually everything started getting wrong. They were just taking liberties, and Ready Player One acknowledged this.
Yeah.
But that still bothered me, because I went from, I'm pissed off that they're referencing The Shining so much to, okay, if you're gonna reference The Shining, do it right!
Yeah.
Where you just have this witch lady flying through the hedges with an axe, and then she becomes a giant. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And then there's like zombies in the ballroom, and
just dancing
you have to jump on top of the zombies.
Yep.
I'm like,
You remember that part, don't you, where Danny hops on zombies?
yeah, I gotta rewatch The Shining, apparently.
Yeah, you missed a lot of... That was a deleted scene.
I really did.
Yeah. But, about that, in the book, what that scene replaced, I'd say is even worse than the Shining scene. Originally in the book...
Wait, I might know this. Is this that shit with our boy Matty B?
Matthew...
Wasn't there...
War Games.
Yes. Did you know Matthew Broderick was in War Games?
I didn't realize that.
He was the lead character, baby.
Wow.
Matty B.
No wonder Steven referenced it. With Matthew, it's bound to be a classic.
They should have gotten... If Matthew Broderick was in Ready Player One...
It would be so much better.
I would come.
But ironically, though, ejaculating ironically.
Yes.
But what he... If you... So you know what happened in the book, kinda?
He had to recite all the lines or something of War Games or something dumb like that.
Exactly. And you see the lines he recites. And it's like, basically, it feels like you're just reading the screenplay of War Games.
Why? You know what? And honestly, this is a big blockbuster thing. So I get, let's not do War Games. I don't know how many people are familiar with that.
The Shining is more familiar.
To, like, nerds, though. To fucking losers. I'm just saying, The Shining is obviously a great, fantastic movie. But how many people do you think in a broad Marvel movie audience have seen The Shining?
Not many.
Reference something like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Or reference one of your own movies. It would be so dorky, but I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
You know what? Star Wars. Instead of The Shining, they should have done a Star Wars scene. Think about it. If I was going to pick something that's the zenith of pop culture, it would probably be that.
Or Indiana Jones.
Yeah, which isn't as good as Star Wars, but I'd be okay with that.
Or The Adventures of Tintin.
Thank you.
Classic.
Tintin turns into Tinbo, the fun robot.
Tintin is a giant
robo Tintin.
And he just has an arm cannon that shoots his dog.
I also did not see Tintin.
Me neither.
Oh.
I just saw the poster and the trailer. That's all I need.
I've got one last problem with this movie, though.
I do too, but you go first.
My problem was that the movie appeared to be about how it's awesome being in a fantasy world. And that's fine. That's one of my favorite things for a story to be about, is exploring the idea of fantasy and how we can interact with it and feel about it. And this movie very much was saying how cool it was to be in the Oasis. There really wasn't much of a drawback. However, the movie also made this point at the very end saying, hey, you know what? Reality is pretty great. You should do reality. And I was like, wait, what?
Only 2 days out of the week, though.
It was so confusing because the whole movie is talking about fantasy kicks ass and there's no depth to that really, but fine. That's a fine message. But then it went, you should really be in reality because it's real. And I went, you can't have both. And then they tried to have both by saying, so now the Oasis is closed for 2 days so you can be in reality more. But I went, okay, first of all, you're still mostly in a fantasy world then. So if reality is supposed to be the best, why is it only 2 days? I don't get what they were going for. I try giving them the benefit of the doubt because I feel like, truthfully, both are great.
Yeah.
Reality things are real, yes, but there are a lot of advantages to a fantasy world, and I feel like they were just trying to acknowledge both. But they didn't do a great job of it. And they should have just scrapped the reality's real shit. They should have just been, fantasy's awesome! And that's it.
Yeah, because also the thing is, reality was shit.
Also true.
They lived in trailers stacked on top of each other, and even when they didn't, things looked really shitty.
And remember how at the end of the movie they resolved that so everything was going to be okay again? Because I don't. Because they didn't.
No, they didn't. He was like, I'm going to make the Oasis better. I'm like, what? You could have put all that money into fixing the world, the real world, which you said is great.
That's a great point. What the fuck?
Just like, I've got these trillions of dollars. What am I going to sink it into? I could, like, cure world hunger. But you know what I'm going to fucking do? I'm going to make more Avatar hair options.
We're going to bring Tinbo back to life with all the money.
He comes out of the lava. Kill me.
Sir, there are thousands of people dying every hour from hunger. But Tinbo gave the thumbs up. You're right. Rips up the data. Also, we would be remiss not mentioning that Simon Pegg does an American accent. That was quite enthralling.
That was pretty good. He did a good job.
That might be my favorite part of the movie, honestly.
His American accent.
Honestly, yes. I really actually think that's my favorite part of the movie is Simon Pegg doing what
American.
What are we? Right, American.
We're American.
Okay, good to know.
Yep. Okay, so the point I wanted to cover that bothered me that you sort of touched on early on was the romance subplot.
All right. I mean, I was just kind of vicariously slipping myself in there. Like, ooh, it's me.
I mean...
Were you not doing that?
I was observing from like a relationship and like a human behavior perspective, and the thing that really bugged me was, first off, he's a huge fucking dork, and dorks deserve love. I deserve love. Drew deserves love. All you dorks deserve love, unless you're douchebag nerds. But anyways,
that was very potent, Nick. Thank you for that.
But him as a turbo nerd and her as a turbo nerd, I'm like, that match could work, but it doesn't always work, and it's not guaranteed to work. And he knew her for probably, maybe, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here, but I'd say a few days, and then he hit her with, I love you. Now, anyone in reality, if you knew someone online for a few days, or if I was being, like, more honest, it probably was actually more like a few hours, and someone says, hey, I love you. Like, I'd block them, and then, I know that didn't happen in the book, but if Ernest Cline understood how human relationships work, he'd realize, hey, most people wouldn't like that.
Listen, I just don't think you're enough of a romantic.
What I was hoping she'd do is, like, maybe they'd stay friends, but the relationship is permanently damaged. But she barely even waited before she basically returned the sentiment later on in the film where they kiss and everything. And it's just like, this is encouraging young women to just accept creepy-ass dudes saying, I love you, like, after just meeting them. And that's not a healthy precedent to set.
He can't be creepy if he's hot.
He wasn't hot. He was pretty plain looking. He looked like porridge.
I thought he was supposed to be hot.
No, he looked pretty... He was like a placeholder for most dudes. He was very ordinary looking.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to be the authority on whether or not he's hot or not.
I am the authority.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Don't question me, peasant.
Sorry, my lord.
I'm a bit bi. So I could find certain men sexually attractive, and to me, he just was like sentient porridge.
Oh, I didn't realize you spoke for all bisexuals. That's great.
I'm the king of the bisexuals.
I finally found the king.
I've been hiding all these years. And you're just like, demisexuals forever. Overthrow the king.
Well, that's a common misconception. You can be demisexual and bisexual at the same time.
Oh. Okay, I don't speak for all bi people. I, as a somewhat bi man myself, am just speaking from experience. But also, I feel like other people might feel that the main guy wasn't that handsome.
I don't know. I guess I just didn't care. They were... the last shot was of them kissing, and I was like, oh, get it, yeah.
Because he's so plain looking, you can put yourself in his shoes.
I don't know. I didn't think he was that plain. I don't think he was the hottest guy ever, but, I mean... I don't know. He wasn't no doof.
He's hotter than Gary Busey. So that's the measurement we're going by.
The Gary Busey measurement.
Is he hotter than Steve Buscemi?
Oh.
Then he's good. He's good enough.
Leave Steve alone.
I'm sorry, Steve. Not Steven. Steve.
Yes, thank you. They're both Steven, probably.
But I'm also apologizing to Steven. Both of you Stevens, love yourselves.
But Nick, listen.
Mm-hmm.
We might not have gotten Hold on, what did I name him?
Timbo.
We might not have gotten Timbo in Ready Player One, but Pacific Rim Uprising came out, which is great, and it's finally our chance to see Timbo in the Robo Flesh.
Take center stage.
Did we see Timbo in Pacific Rim Uprising?
What does Timbo look like?
I don't fucking know, so I guess you could say yes.
Yeah.
Timbo!
There were a lot of robots, so one of them could have been our boy Timbo.
Here's my problem with Pacific Rim Uprising, is that it wants you to be very familiar with the first movie, which is weird because they have a whole opening bit where they have, hey, guess what? This happened in the first movie, and it was pretty crazy. But they don't say nearly enough. And so most of the movie, they just have the expectation you remember what happened in the first movie.
Yeah.
I remember rather liking the first movie. I don't remember it very well, though.
No.
So for a lot of this, I'm just thinking, what the fuck is happening?
I think I saw it like 3 years ago, so it was relatively more familiar in my mind.
I forgot you needed two brains to link.
Yeah.
That barely mattered because they basically just kind of threw that away. Didn't they have, like, oh, you can link with just one now? Didn't they say that?
They still kind of needed two.
Okay, well, it was barely relevant this time. I remember that being a really cool concept in the first movie, but
Yeah.
they didn't really do anything with it in this movie.
No.
I think that Charlie Day was in the movie.
He was probably the best part, and I use the word best lightly.
I mean, yeah, there was the scene, and I remember this the most, where he's just going, "Honey, I'm home. It's me, Charlie Day." Ah!
That's what he sounds like.
Hey, I'm home, and you won't believe the day I've had being Charlie Day. It's so crazy. And they're not showing who he's talking to, so I'm thinking, it's gonna be a fatty, isn't it? No, I wasn't thinking that. But I'm thinking, all right,
Robot.
what's the catch here?
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be this fucking alien flesh in a
Alien
jar.
brain.
And I'm like, what? Did I miss something? I remember leaning to you, and I'm like, did he have an alien brain girlfriend in the first movie?
And I was
that
like,
I forgot
no!
about? And then he just hooks up these wires and basically has sex with it or
Telepathically.
something. It just the way his eyes roll back into his skull, it's like he's getting a
ejaculating.
massive blowjob. And I'm like, what the fuck?
From an alien brain.
And then we don't see that again.
No, that was the best part.
But we find out that apparently that brain link made Charlie Day a cool baddie boy.
A big naughty man.
Which I guess I will give the movie credit that, alright, they took a good guy from the last movie and made him a bad guy. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Right.
And then he was like, I'm gonna make the world go bad! Get you with my robot aliens! Ah!
It's disturbing how well you do that impression.
I do a very good Charlie Day.
Clearly.
So, yeah, in this movie, there were alien robots.
Yep.
And they were punching stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the good guys went, we have the resistance. And we're gonna punch them.
Better.
I didn't like this movie.
No.
I'm sorry. Listen, what would have made this movie really good is if they just had a lot of robo punching. And they didn't.
There was a lot of talking.
Yeah, a lot of talking, and it worked in the first movie when they had talking because they had an interesting plot.
Yeah.
And characters that, while very, very dumb,
Yeah.
they were characters, and they were interesting and had dynamics. Where this time, I don't care about any of the characters. You had the main character, and I went, okay. And then you had that guy that he was with, and I went, okay.
And the little girl.
Yeah, a little girl. And I went, okay.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing about the little girl I can say that stood out is like, she was a little. Okay.
And the other people weren't.
Yeah. And I don't remember anything about the other people. I remember
Russian girl.
There were two guys, and then one of them just died, and I went, Okay.
And they never acknowledged him. They're like, oh no, Jimbo. And then they're like, yeah, we beat the bad guy and we didn't lose anyone. And you just see his crumpled corpse in the distance.
I mean, that didn't happen, but it would have been great.
No, yeah, it would have.
I did also like when you had 3 alien robots. Were they also robots?
Okay, so the alien brains possess the robots.
Okay, but then when the aliens were there, the 3 aliens, they weren't also robots. They were just aliens.
They were regular aliens.
Okay, and the cool thing is they combined to form a giant alien, and I went, all right, that's kind of cool. And then one of the robots went, we can only destroy the big alien by jumping into the sky and doing a super punch. And I went, that's cool, because honest to God, I thought that the movie would end with everyone approaching Charlie Day going, you need to remember, you're good. Remember, you're a good guy. And he'd go, you're right. I'm so sorry. And push a button and the alien would
Blows
go, I'll go home. I really actually thought that might happen. And I remember telling you, if the movie ends that way, I'm going to hang myself from this movie theater.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it did not. And the punch ending was fine. But this is what I wanted, okay? Because the movie was so fucking boring.
Yeah.
I wanted the punch scene to happen in a span of 30 seconds. Instead, the punch scene was like this big 7-minute tense piece. Mm-hmm. Probably around that length. And I just went, just fucking do the punch. As soon as I knew they were going to do the punch, I'm like, show me the punch.
That's all
Give me
we
the
want.
punch, please. But you just have to wait for it. And I guess there was tension because he went, is the punch going to work? So I guess that was keeping me hanging on. But mostly I was thinking, I want that punch. And it took so long to get to the punch.
Long punch.
And I don't really have anything else to say about the movie. I think the biggest downfall is that you didn't care about the characters.
No.
And the robots didn't punch a lot. And the things that were happening with the humans you didn't care about. I just want to see, all right, people are in danger because there's aliens coming and making people die. But then they had this thing, how's the business gonna do? The big business. And then, we're in the army and we have to be friends. I'm like, fuck off! Give me the monsters!
Yeah.
Like, just have a monster come kill everyone we've met. And I will be 1,000% on board. Wow, everyone's dead. Now what? Oh.
Yeah. 2 points that I want to make. One, this film was sorely lacking Ron Perlman. And for those of you that saw the first movie and said, wait, he died. If you watch a mid-credits scene, he burst out of one of the monsters that ate him. Ate him.
That was great grammar.
Yeah, I fucked that up.
You want to try it again?
Ron Perlman busted out of the monster that ate him.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Can you repeat that again, though? Because I like that sentence.
Ron Perlman busted out of the monster that ate him.
Ron Perlman busted out of the monster that ate him.
Yeah. Hannibal Chow was his name, and he was one of the best characters. He said, like, he's named after his favorite conqueror and his favorite Chinese food restaurant, which was just, like, it was a really funny concept. And he would have added, like, a nice comic relief element to this, but he just wasn't fucking there. And 2 serious elements in it that weren't supposed to be funny that I'm sure you'll remember as soon as I mention them. A flashback of the little girl. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're on a beach pier and monsters are attacking and she's split off from her family and there's a big hole in the pier and her dad's like, just jump, honey, just jump across the giant hole. And she's like too scared. And then like right as she's about to jump, a giant monster tentacle swings by and crushes the family. And the timing of it was just like, you have no time to react, and it's just like, like I feel like a slide whistle would be appropriate.
It was pretty great, and easily the most brutal thing that happened in the movie, unfortunately.
And it just felt like a joke.
Yeah.
The other funny thing was when the robot aliens fired a missile into the base. And one of the missiles was going toward the ceiling, which is where the base, the little HQ is, where the commanders hang out. And the one commander, He was this, he just stood as the missile was coming at him, and he opened his mouth like he was yelling, and he spread his arms wide like he's about to give someone a hug, and he's just like, "Ah!" And then the missile just blew up, and I'm just like, wait, why? You could have just said, "Oh, fuck," and then just explode, but he made it like, I gotta give the guy credit. He made it his own.
I don't remember that at all.
It was like 3 seconds. It was very quick.
I trust that it happened. Maybe that was one of the many moments where I was just putting my head in my hand.
Playing Pokemon Go.
I don't think I was doing that during that movie.
Okay.
Because there were people around.
Yeah, you didn't want to be inconsiderate of the viewing experience.
I will pull out my phone if
when
I'm
there's
the
no one.
only one in the theater.
Yeah.
Which has happened quite a bit, actually.
As of late with us, yeah.
But I did think it was interesting that there were some characters from the first movie, but then you had some new characters. I remember Limp Boy. Like, I've got a limp today.
And I'm a scientist.
But then there was another character that was apparently in the first movie, and I did not recognize her. Yeah. So there's this big dramatic scene where this plane is going down, and there's this Japanese girl in there that hasn't said much, and I think people are going, "No!" And then the plane explodes and she's dead. And I didn't understand what her significance was.
No.
And you told me, yeah, she was that Asian from the first movie.
She was like the second main character.
What? Like the movie expected me to remember that. I'm like, I didn't know. So honestly, because they didn't spend time in this movie explaining why she was important or why you should give a shit.
Right.
So they have this really sad scene of her plane exploding. I'm like, who are you? Like, who's this lady? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Pacific Rim Uprising. More like Pacific Rim Downsizing.
More like Pacific Rim 2. Wait, was that a reference to that Matt Damon movie?
No. No, it wasn't supposed to be.
Okay.
I do think Downsizing would have benefited from everyone dying because of aliens, though.
That would have been great.
But, yeah, can't wait for Pacific Rim 3.
Or Pacific Rim, Charlie Day is the alien boss.
Pacific Rim job.
Someone definitely has made that joke, but...
No. I was the first.
Oh, okay.
So if anyone else says it, you know that they're hacks.
Yeah. It does leave it open for a third movie, because Charlie Day's like, the aliens will come back!
Yeah, that was great. That was even better than mine.
I think yours is pretty much the best. I'm Charlie Day. I'm in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
You can't take me seriously as a bad guy at all.
Aren't I intimidating? Sorry, Charlie.
I really thought it might be a good sequel, but I was not into it.
Nope.
But you know what was a great sequel? Say it. I want you to say it. Say it. Say it.
Sherlock Gnomes.
You're goddamn right. Sherlock motherfucking Gnomes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we saw Sherlock Gnomes. You bet your bottom dollar.
I just saw it, and I remember less of it than I remember of Ready Player One.
Listen, I thought Sherlock Gnomes was the best of all three of these movies. Nick.
I don't want to argue with you.
I'm serious.
And I don't think I can, because I hated most of them.
But do you agree?
No, I'd say Ready Player One.
Okay.
From a craftsman standpoint.
I barely had any problems with Sherlock Gnomes, and I thought I would. But save the occasional dumb joke and bad pun, it was not nearly as stupid as I thought it would be. Okay, let me clarify. It was incredibly stupid that it existed.
Yep.
But I'm just kind of fascinated by this, because the first movie was Romeo and Juliet, and it was loosely based off Romeo and Juliet. And then you jump into a totally different literary thing with Sherlock Gnomes, but it also involves the characters of Romeo and Juliet. This is one of the most fascinating cinematic universes.
What I'm wondering is, what's the third movie gonna be? A Tale of Two Gnomes?
It's gotta work better like that. You gotta think of Gnomey Dick.
Oh, fuck. I think you got it. I think you got it. I think they.
Moby Dick.
Hang on, I gotta
That
keep.
doesn't play well.
Gnome on the Range.
Is that a book?
I think that's just a movie.
It's just a fucking song.
Or song.
Uncle Gnome's Cabin. This is getting bad.
Just bail on. What was yours?
Moby Dick.
Well, okay, Know Me Dick.
That's a pretty good
right.
one. I don't think we can think of anything better than
We
that
can't.
right
A
now.
Captain Ahab gnome.
That's pretty good.
That'd be great.
And a gnome whale. I could be into that.
Yeah.
But what was that? What was that book about the guy that wanted revenge?
Count of Monte Cristo.
The Gnome of Monte Cristo?
The Count of Nomi Cristo.
There we go. Count of Nomi Cristo. That works pretty well. I knew it.
I feel like Nomi Dick might work better.
Probably better. But then the great
Gnomesby. The Gnome Gatsby. Gnome Great Gatsby Gnome Junior.
Great Gnome Expectations. Gnome Expectations. Wait, the Gnomes of Wrath. There you go. Of Gnomes and Men.
I was going to say of Mice and Gnomes.
We have a lot of potential for a great cinematic universe here, and I am dead serious. I want to see this. I like, it's so weird to me, but I love it. Just the idea. Let's take classic literature, make it about gnomes, and keep having characters from the previous installments. I want to see that. I'm so into it. And these movies, I mean, I know I've got a high tolerance for animation. I like them. The only thing I really wasn't into was I didn't like the frog and the gnome subplot about how they were in love in Sherlock Gnomes. That was dumb.
It didn't go anywhere. It went in a very predictable direction.
I thought it was a mystery, and I had fun. You had some fun set pieces with the Chinese toys, and you had this pepper shaker that was speaking for a giant cat that just only meowed.
You called the twist from the top, though. It was a mystery that you knew the answer to.
I did, but then there was a twist upon the twist, because I thought that I had finished it. I thought, all right, I called it, we're done. But then there was another twist, and I wasn't prepared for that at all. So even that, I was pretty, wow, okay, cool. I wasn't expecting that. I liked the voice acting. I thought Juliet was very sexy.
The voice or the character?
I'm both.
Oh.
Come on, listen. If I was going to pick anyone from any 2018 movie that I want to bang, come on.
So wait, would you put her gnome hat in your butt?
Is that even a question? Is that...
I'd rather put James McAvoy's character's hat up my butt.
Listen, I appreciate that we're both now imagining each other with Romeo and Juliet characters up our asses.
With their heads still attached to the hat.
Yeah, of course, and they'd be into it, like, a lot. But I feel like we're starting to have a problem in this podcast.
Sexualizing.
I think it's going a little too far.
Maybe.
I think
Take it back.
We're too sexy.
Yeah, we gotta get less sexy.
I'm too sexy for my gnome.
Too sexy for my gnome.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be a whole different franchise. But I genuinely actually enjoyed my time watching Sherlock Gnomes. How did you feel? Don't lie to me. I know you were in pain.
I never lie. Well, I do.
I don't want you to feel compelled to go, I guess it was kind of fun.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
The only reason it was, if I was watching it by myself, I would lose my fucking mind. The only reason I didn't is because you were with me. And you kept me sane. Like, your presence there. Because by itself, there is just, like, yeah, as a kid, I probably would have liked it, but as an adult, I was just in pain. And every time a fucking Elton John song came on, I was like, Elton John, why don't you just write music for the film? I don't care if it's shit, but why do you have to bring in your classic songs and ruin them in the context of this weird-ass, unexplainable existence film?
Why didn't you like it, though? Can you put it into words?
It's difficult.
How wonderful life is now that gnomes in the world.
That's it. I'm going gnome.
Fuck you. Oh, I didn't like the one time the gnome was dabbing. That was a little...
Ooh, yeah,
was a
gnome
little rough.
dab. That's weak. Weak movie.
Listen, it's only fair that if you have to explain why you didn't like it, I have to explain why I did like it. I didn't think that Romeo and Juliet had the best characters, and I didn't think that they had the most believable problem that they had to resolve amongst each other. But they pushed that problem so hard that after a while, you just bought into it. At least I did. Because that was really, it was a very sharp, clear focus of the movie. The movie is about making sure that you don't take people in your life for granted. That's what they were going for. And yes, maybe the characters were not the best characters, but they had a lot of spunk. Juliet got shit done. And Romeo, he was a nice, cool guy that also got shit done, albeit with a little less spunk. I really did like Juliet. I'm trying to take the sex out of it.
It's difficult.
You know, I think the important part of my relationship with Juliet is afterward, when we both have cigarettes and we're just talking. I'm sorry. Okay, so...
You don't even smoke. Everything else you said was fine until you brought up the cigarettes.
That was the true issue. But Sherlock Gnomes, I wish they pushed the Sherlock Holmes thing a little bit more. I liked it when he was deducing things, but there was enough of that where I was into it. I feel Johnny Depp did really well as playing a believable Sherlock Gnomes. I think Watson made a lot of sense as being Watson. I liked them together, and I feel that they made things really interesting being with Romeo and Juliet. I went, oh, okay, so they're going to go on this mystery adventure that ordinarily you don't see other characters jumping into. So I thought that was interesting, and then they wind up splitting up, and I thought, oh, that's great, because now you have Juliet being with Sherlock Gnomes, and that's a totally different dynamic.
Yeah.
And so the character dynamics, broadened and got more interesting. You had the twist, which I discussed, which I really liked. And I loved the villain. I thought the villain was this creative thing that I hadn't seen before that was really genuinely scary, but also goofy and funny.
Yeah.
It was a really cool villain that was equal parts fun and actually menacing.
Would it change your mind if I told you it's based on a character?
I know who Moriarty is.
Okay, just making sure.
But I don't... And I like the Moriarty pie angle, that it's just like this fat-ass pie boy.
Like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, but call it Moriarty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so stupid, but I liked it. I was into it. It was creative.
Yeah.
The way that the bad plot unfolded at the end and how things were going to go, I went, wow, that's actually interesting. It's not something I've really seen before, having people meet their demise in that way. I just think that it's a movie that seems incredibly stupid, and I would not judge people for not wanting to see it. But I think that there's a lot more going on than people would think. Is it funny? I don't think it's necessarily funny, no. But I think the henchmen were creative. Having gargoyles, that makes sense, because it's not like everything comes to life in this universe necessarily. It's sort of like Toy Story, but not really. It's
statues.
It's like it's a specific subsection, and it made sense. Like, yeah, you have gnomes coming to life, gargoyles would come to life too, and they were pretty menacing for the most part.
Except
when they were first introduced, which was admittedly hilarious, where you see this terrifying creature, but you don't know what it is because you only catch glimpses of it, and these characters getting freaked out and go like, "What are you?" Just pops his head out, goes, "I'm a gargoyle, y'all."
Well, no.
What did he exactly say?
He's British, so he said, "I'm a gargoyle, mate."
Oh, that's right. Thank you for correcting me.
That's an important distinction.
That was ridiculous. But you know what? It was still scary. It's a big-ass gargoyle, and these are tiny gnomes.
Yeah.
And, okay, Watson with his grappling hook umbrella, or cane, whatever it was, that was dope.
Yeah.
Watson was a badass.
He was.
Okay?
They shone the spotlight on him and made Sherlock look like more of an asshole than usual.
So, I'm sorry, dude. But those are the reasons I liked this. I just felt there was enough spunk going on with the characters. It was a genuinely interesting mystery. And it's so weird.
Yeah.
That how can you not be at least a little bit compelled by it?
That's true. One thing I did like about it is that its use of 2D animation mixed with the 3D.
Yeah, that was great. When Sherlock went into his head, you would get to see this traditionally animated stuff that was in black and white, too.
Yeah.
So that made it even cooler. I liked those bits.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to say I wish the whole movie was like that, but I will acknowledge that there were actually great textures that you got from the CG. Like, they really looked plastic, and I liked that. And there are a lot of different types of creatures, I guess I could say, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Things coming to life. They're
Lawn
usually...
ornaments.
Yeah, and they had various different textures, so I liked it. It was fun.
One thing I wanted to see more of was gnome death, which sounds weird in a kids movie, but it implied that gnomes can be hurt by being smashed in some way. You briefly see a gnome get the top of its head punched off or something, smashed off early in the movie, and it cracks off because it's made of some kind of stone material.
And that's permanent damage.
Yeah, you could like maybe glue it back, but it wouldn't feel the same.
No, it wouldn't be the same.
And so I wanted to see like a gnome fall off a high ledge and just shatter into bits. And I was hoping to see that with the bad guy or even like a random civilian gnome that's like, ah! And then everyone just looks on in horror like they just saw a suicide or something. And the closest thing to like serious damage to a gnome was Sherlock sort of getting his leg broken, but it didn't get broken off or anything.
Does that get fixed? Like, is he just going to be crippled for life? Because that was a little ambiguous. I hope Sherlock is a very nimble gentleman. I hope he could get his leg fixed somehow.
That'd be a severe disadvantage.
Yeah, that sucks. But I understand where you're coming from. I think in a better movie that wasn't so weird, they would take the concept of fragile lawn ornaments that are made out of ceramic, and they would make the entire story around the idea of fragility and how being afraid that you could potentially permanently do harm to yourself could possibly prevent you from living life to the fullest. I think that would be really compelling and is clearly wrong for this franchise.
Well, okay.
We want to avoid anything that's too good. We want to make this weird as shit.
Maybe save the best for last and Know Me Dick. Bring that theme in there.
Well, I want Know Me Dick to just be the beginning.
Oh, okay.
But eventually...
open up the universe.
My dream is not to write the next great American novel, but to have the next great American novel that I write be turned into the finale to the Gnome franchise.
It's the greatest honor. Shakespeare and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle live on through these films.
The Gnome literary cinematic universe. And I want to be the finale. That's what I want out of my life, not our fucking band. I want this fucking great American novel.
It all comes out.
But okay, it sounds like you don't have many reasons for disliking it.
No, it's just that it was also just pretty boring for me.
Okay.
And one point I wanted to add, it's interesting that 2 of the 3 movies that we reviewed today are basically wouldn't exist without references. If you think about it, Ready Player One and Sherlock Gnomes are reliant on you knowing about the source material.
I would almost argue it doesn't matter, though.
Yeah.
Because you vaguely need to know, but you get what's going on pretty quickly. You get, all right, Sherlock Gnomes, he's a detective. Moriarty, he's a bad guy. Watson's the sidekick.
Yeah.
These 2 are in love, and their names are Romeo and Juliet. I mean, you barely had to know about Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
And you really didn't. It was the same thing with the first movie, which I'm sure you've seen.
I have not.
What? I'm surprised at you.
I'm sorry.
Are you surprised that I've seen the first movie?
No!
I didn't think so. So I also liked the first movie, but we won't talk about that. Someone did kind of die in that movie, but then they were like back to life by the end of it.
Did they
glued
shatter?
Together. They did.
Oh, man, that would have been cool.
And it was awkward because they obviously didn't want to show it because it'd be way too disturbing. So they had this elf in a high-pitched voice go, "He is no longer with us."
Oh, my God.
And then it got really weird, but we won't go into that.
All right.
But, yeah, I mean, Romeo and Juliet is a great movie for date night.
Why didn't they kill themselves at the end? That would have been the ultimate reference to the original.
They explained it in like an actually kind of satisfying way, if you can believe it.
Wow.
But listen, I don't want to talk about Romeo and Juliet because it makes me feel a little sad. Because, sometimes there's people in your life that you see yourself with and it doesn't work out. And, and Sherlock Gnomes was great because it wasn't really about romance. But Romeo and Juliet just brings me to a bad place,
Yeah, I can see why.
So that's not what, that's not the reason we were upset in the beginning. That's like my own thing.
Yeah.
What really pissed me off is that we were trying to do a marketing thing where we were going to take a picture of us dressed up as gnomes watching Sherlock Gnomes. And we did. We got the picture.
Yep.
But the problem is the picture, our hats, you can't tell that they're pointy. And that's an issue because we don't look like gnomes. You agree, right, Nick?
I don't think the pointy hat is the most essential part of the gnome look.
Well, but it is the most important part of the look. I mean, we had the beards and we had the belts, but without the pointy hat, it's not really a gnome.
But we had the beards and the belt and part of the hat.
But listen, even if it wasn't pointy, if we at least saw the tip of it as a lump, but we didn't have that.
We didn't have it in one of the pictures.
Yeah, but the other picture had really bad lighting because by that point, all the theater lights came on and then our faces, you could barely see them. It's just totally in shadows. So you either want to go with the picture that has bad lighting or you want to go with the picture where the hats aren't right. So
or you could Photoshop one part of the good lighting or the bad lighting. What you can do is Photoshop the tip of the hat in the bad lighting picture and put it on the good lighting picture.
Yeah, but then we would have a Photoshopped image. We'd be saying, like, hey, we went to see Sherlock Gnomes dressed as gnomes, but we would know that it was Photoshopped.
But it's not like we Photoshopped ourselves into the theater and we Photoshopped the gnome stuff on us. Everything that you see in the picture was there.
But it still feels wrong because we Photoshopped. Like, we doctored the photo and people could see it and potentially think, oh, well, they Photoshopped it. So it opens up the door for people to doubt the authenticity of our claims.
I really think you're overthinking it. I don't think anyone's going to call us out on that. Except now they might because I'm talking about it.
Well, okay, hypothetically, even if nobody noticed, it's the idea that, we didn't get it right. And we should have gotten it right. And we should have fucking thought about the fact that if we lean our heads back, you're not going to be able to see the points of our hat. And it looked all wrong. And I'm pissed off that we didn't get it the first time. And I don't just want to use that picture like you suggested. I don't think any of the pictures we have are good. I don't think Photoshopping is going to work because it's undermining our integrity. We got to do it right.
So what are you suggesting?
We got to stay with me here.
Okay.
We watch Sherlock Gnomes again.
Oh.
Just come on, because listen, the problem is what we are saying we are going to do is watch Sherlock Gnomes with gnome costumes. And yes, we did technically do it, but we cannot have a good picture of that instance without having to doctor it in some way. And if people see it doctored, they could think, oh, well, it's doctored. So how do we know they really did it? Maybe they photoshopped their entire bodies in there. So we need an actual undoctored photograph. And we can't just go into another movie because we're going to know that it was a lie. I mean, yes, you can piece the memories together, all right, well, we have a picture of us in gnome costumes, and we also did do that in Sherlock Gnomes, so we can pretend that they're together, but we're going to know in our hearts that it was falsified. And we're going to see that picture, and I'm going to know. Maybe you're not going to care, but I'm going to care.
I can't argue with you at this point. You've laid out all your reasons, but I just feel like it's too much.
Well, we don't have to see the whole movie.
But we'd still have to pay for tickets for a movie we already sat through.
Yeah.
We could...
It sucks. I'm not going to say that that's not a shitty aspect of the plan, but we need to get a better picture. And even if we don't see the whole movie, we can at least say, okay, well, we did have gnome costumes on while watching Sherlock Gnomes when that good picture was taken. And obviously, we'll make sure that we have the pointed hats.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from, and I guess I can agree to it, but it is frustrating.
Well, yeah, I mean, we should have gotten the picture the first time. It wasn't a good picture.
No, it wasn't.
I guess that's on us, though. It's not something we could have anticipated.
No. Fuck.
It's not going to be that bad. I know you don't like the movie, but we only have to see 5 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Well, what else would we do?
Well, you already covered my possible suggestions, so...
Well, okay, well, let's go back to any of those suggestions. Why do you think that it would work after the reasons I laid out?
Well, for me, I obviously like bringing a gnome costume in to see a future film and just taking a picture in that theater. Like, that wouldn't bother me because we have the picture... We have pictures of us seeing Sherlock Gnomes. So if anyone somehow doubted our credibility, we can give them the original photos and be like, hey.
Yeah, but the original photos aren't good. Like, we'd be putting those out into the world. And
No. We'd put the new one out, but if anyone asked, we'd show them the old ones.
I know, but I don't even want to show them the old ones. Like, we should just be putting out the good gnome photo into the world.
All right.
And you wouldn't feel, if we were seeing some other movie, you wouldn't feel any sort of guilt or regret that we're faking it?
No, I wouldn't.
Why?
Because we did it. And we know we did it. And other people will know we did it.
But it's not going to feel like we did it if the picture isn't under the right circumstances. Do you not agree?
I agree to an extent. The idea that I would just pay for another fucking Sherlock Gnomes ticket is just almost too much for my mind to take.
All right.
Contest?
Yeah, keep doing the contest. Keep submitting things.
Keep doing? No one's done it.
Keep submitting.
Start submitting.
Yes, get around to doing it. And... we'll do the fucking song, I guess, that I'm not a huge fan of, but that's
Maybe we
fine.
have to up the reward.
No, let's not talk about that right now.
Okay.
All right?
Fair enough.
This is brought to you by Fissure Mist Media, where you can do anything under the sun that you can imagine with audio. You can do audiobooks. You can do movies. You can do everything related to movies. There's a lot of movie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Also music. Did I say podcasts?
You didn't, but yeah, podcast.
Podcasts too. All right. Yeah, I guess we're done.
Alrighty.
Thanks.
Yep. Bye.